So Western Australia will open its borders from midnight tonight to Victoria and New South Wales. The fact this was even in doubt until this afternoon shows you the absurd overreach of the West Australian Premier Mark McGowan. I mean, he left the whole New South Wales travel situation up in the air because of one infection, a single worker at hotel quarantine in Sydney. This approach to borders and the pandemic is terrible. As you know, I've been saying all year, it is pathetic leadership. It ruins travel plans, crushes communities, destroys jobs and keeps families apart. The COVID panic in this country is ridiculous, even here at the end of the year. We were once known as a strong, resilient and self-reliant country. Now we love the nanny state mentality. McGowan won't even let South Australians into his state this week because they had one contained outbreak of 25 people last month. And no one in that outbreak even got sick. South Australia has only 2 active cases today in a population of 2 million people. But they can't go to Western Australia from South Australia without quarantine. You can't even drive through South Australia on your way into WA without quarantine. These premiers are a joke. And the media, as you know, is just as bad. They lead bulletins with news on one infection here or another person tested positive there. A COVID infection is bigger news than a road death. One person gets diagnosed with a virus that is mild to harmless in 99% of infections, and it leads news bulletins. On the weekend, we had the media going nuts because 2 people from Germany who were not sick and not infected with coronavirus flew from Sydney to Melbourne. Now, yes, it was a story. There was a breach of quarantine that was quite bizarre, but the media saturation and hyperventilation was just over the top.
As security tightens around a new round of quarantine hotels, what could have been another COVID catastrophe. A German woman and her son avoiding quarantine in Sydney.
Waiting to get on a bus to go to hotel quarantine. Next minute, they're not in that queue.
The pair managing to board a Virgin flight to Melbourne on Saturday afternoon.
Another COVID catastrophe? Give me a break. Let's get some perspective here. As I keep saying, it is not Ebola. And in this case, no one was infected, no one was sick, and they went into hotel quarantine in Melbourne anyway. This is what we're up against in this country at the moment. The premiers and the media hyping it up day in and day out. This is why our economy has been hit too hard, why too many kids have missed school, why too many jobs have been lost, why too much government money has been spent, because our reaction has just been way too jumpy. A lot of people love to panic, stocking up on toilet paper and hiding from the virus. And because state governments love to feed that panic and make themselves look like they're saving their populations because it's politically popular, we have an unofficial elimination strategy in this country, one we were never promised and never endorsed. We're not flattening the curve, we're paying any price to stop all infections. This is very costly in human and economic terms. And that was brought home today when both Victoria and New South Wales lost one of their AAA credit ratings. The ratings agencies now recognising we have put ourselves deeply in the hock for decades to come. And just for a sense of perspective on the human side of all this, let me tell you about something that happened on the weekend that you might not have heard much about, something that I noticed didn't even make some major news bulletins last night. 2 37-year-old Queensland fathers holidaying with their families at the beach. They saw their kids get into trouble in the surf and they went in to rescue them.
Heartbreaking new details have been revealed about heroic attempts to save the lives of 2 young men who drowned yesterday off Tiwa Beach. Fathers Denny Jade Kabala and Richard Katbagan were camping together with their families when the kids went into the water to cool off. Both dads rushed in when the kids got caught in dangerous waters, but they themselves were taken by a current and drowned. A passerby pulled one of the men from the water and started CPR before trying to save the other, but they were both pronounced dead at the scene.
Yeah, just a tragedy. Thankfully, all 3 children have survived. The 2 fathers, Denny Kabala and Richard Katbagan, lost their lives saving their children. What a horrible tragedy. A sad end to 2 young, active lives in the act of saving their own children. There was heroism too from the locals who braved the waves to try and help out. Saturation coverage in the media about two healthy people catching a plane to Melbourne, while lots of media ignored the heartbreaking heroism and unspeakable tragedy of young men losing their lives, saving their families. We need to get some perspective in this country about the pandemic that is dangerous to the very old and the very sick, who must be protected, of course, better than they were early on, but which thankfully this virus is not a real threat to most people. People should be encouraged by governments to keep calm and carry on, but too many of our state premiers are intent on fostering panic and fear.